Revenge or repeat, and Chris Eubank Jr. definitely got revenge. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the StayWeighedIn YouTube channel. I'm joined by my man Ray. How you doing, man?
Listen, man, thankful. A few good fights yesterday, and we didn't have to stay up until 3 a.m., so I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Literally the exact same. I think you've nailed it on the head. We had a good little UFC card that we'll touch on towards the back end, but we're here for one thing first, and that's Chris Eubank Jr. putting on a clinic against Liam Smith. And I guess I want to just let's talk about the fight itself. I think the first three rounds were a bit more balanced, and then we got to the fourth round that Chris basically let loose and was able to showcase what he's been doing over training camp. And then from there, from 4 till 10 until the referee stopped it, it was kind of a one way traffic. Talk to me about what you saw from Chris Eubank Jr. in this fight that you probably haven't seen whilst he's been under Roy Jones.
He finally developed his own style and stopped doing a Roy Jones Jr. tribute act. And listen, shout out to Roy Jones Jr., incredible fighter, incredible accolades, all that good stuff. We need to have a truthful conversation on what he's teaching people, because I even saw a clip with him with Jamal Charlo, and Roy keeps on teaching people stuff that he done, and I've said this before about Roy. You can't teach people how to be freakishly athletic like he was. So all the unorthodox moves that he shows sometimes is like, brother, you can do that because you are you. You can't. It's the same thing when people jokingly talk about like Thierry Henry as a coach, and he's saying, do this. Yeah, Henry, if we was all just, magic as good as you, we would do it, but we're not. So I feel like the Bomac switch was good because it seemed like they've finally got him to develop a style that's suited for his style, for his build, leaning towards his athleticism. Yes, you may not be the greatest boxer, but what you can do is this, and they made him do that. The uppercuts are working lovely. That's always been a thing of Chris Eubank Jr.'s, and he really utilized this fight. He was good on the jab. His gas tank held up, and some people in the group chat got upset at me because I was a bit overly critical of Chris Eubank, but I said this is what should have happened the first fight. So when people are hyping up saying, "Oh, he's down a third," no disrespect. This is how the first fight should have gone. And I'm sure if you ask Chris Eubank Jr. himself, he would say the same. And I think I've seen a post-fight interview, and he said that this is how the first fight should have gone. So when people are hyping it up, don't get me wrong, full congratulations to Chris. I commend Bomac for the way he's helped mold Eubank into his own fighter, rather than he's not attributed that to his father and he's not attributed that to Roy Jones Jr. Now he's coming into his own, and now is the time that I want him. Forget Kell Brook, forget Conor Benn, go for that world title shot, because I want to see Chris Eubank Jr. as a world champion. It will be the greatest TV ever.
I was going to say, so you kind of had a few good points there. I think one of the things you talked about was actually his gas tank. And you saw in round four and five, he let loose. And then I think you probably say 6 to 8, reined it back a bit and understood that I'm up on the cards. I've already dealt the damage. And then 9-10 went in and basically got the job done. A lot of people, and we'll talk about the future soon, a lot of people have said, though, this was his most complete performance probably in his career. We're at, what is he, 33 right now? Would you agree with that? And also, was this probably the most pressurized position Chris Eubank Jr. was in terms of his career?
Definitely his most complete performance. I think, even though it's late in his career, is a combination of this is how you should have been fighting a long time ago, and you finally found a trainer that will get the best out of you. And that's what you got to commend Bomac for. I don't know what he's told him. I don't know the secret to it, but Bomac has come. I think with Chris Eubank, there's always been an issue with, does he respect his trainer, or at least the perception of it always came across as he doesn't respect his trainers. And I think with what Bomac's done and the accomplishment that he's got under his belt, is like you are forced to, like, you
You have
can't ignore. Yeah, you have to.
he's got the best fighter in boxing under him. So who are you basically kind of
Exactly.
saying?
So I think Chris Eubank finally has someone who he's going to listen to and adhere to. And I think Bomac has also done the good thing of, let's play to your strengths. Stop trying to make you this tribute act. Sometimes in life it hinders someone to try to change them too much. And I think what Bomac done is just refined him in a way that's good. And what's also good is because Eubank didn't have an extensive amateur career. So being 33, you would normally, with a fighter that's had an extensive amateur career as well as professional, it would normally be the tail end. And don't get me wrong, we are near the tail end, but he's still got a bit more in the gas tank.
Mm.
And I feel like this is where, please, for the love of everything, those money fights with Ben and Kelbrook always be there. Go for the world title. I want that. You see the promos. If Chris Eubank Jr. becomes the world champion, the promos are going to be elite. Oh my goodness.
I was going to say, you basically moved on to the next point, and I want to touch on Liam later on. But with Chris, he said he wants Triple G next. What's the best logical route for you? Because you said the title fights will be there.
I think someone hasn't broken the news to him that Triple G's not.
Yeah, I was going to say Triple G is not a champion.
Yeah.
So what would you rather, and this is going to sound a bit crazy, Triple G is still the more marquee name than probably any of the champions right now outside of Charlo. So would you rather fight Triple G, or would you fight for a belt and then go into a Triple G fight later on?
That's actually, I didn't think about that. That's actually a good idea to do that. To get a belt and then fight. Because I was just going to say, forget Triple G, unless he wants a Triple G fight just to get a name under his belt and for the money. But I also don't think that.
I don't think so.
Triple G is not the money fight that he was before, especially with him relinquishing the title. Because in all honesty, this is what was meant to happen. We're meant to be Chris Eubank Jr. beats Liam Smith the first time. And I think by the time he beat him the first time, Triple G was still holding on to the belt. Then after that, go for the Triple G fight. And I think with Triple G, he's in a space in his career where it's just like money fights only. He's got one fight out the door. And then I'm sure Triple G saw the mandatory that he had and was just like, I don't give a F about this. Here, take the belt. In the words of Wiley, take it back. Triple G just said, I don't.
Yeah, I'm done with this, man. I'm 40 odd.
I'm 40 odd. I've done what I've done in my career. The hell do I need this mandatory for? Take it back. So I think that's actually a good point. The only thing is the middleweight division is so dry at the moment. You got Charlo, who's recessing champ. He's going through his own domestics, and WBC are just being weird because Charlo can't defend his belt for 2 years, but you've got Better Beef, who's... This is a whole random thing. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but Better Beef should just drop that WBC belt, because if they keep on saying he can't get an undisputed fight because he's Russian, one, he just needs to start claiming his Canadian citizenship and saying I'm fine under Canada. Or two, if they don't allow him to do that, drop the belts and stop paying them sanctioning fees because they're taking the piss. But anywho, middleweight division, it's just dry. It's like Janabek is fighting some guy, another title fight.
It's one of them divisions that is just flat. Like, unless you talk Charlo, there's nothing.
Even then, do you know what? I think Charlo might take that fight. The only thing is, with Jamal, he's also in a position to wait for the Canelo fight. So that would actually be a good fight. I would like, and they were building up to that a long time ago. I think before the pandemic. Because remember, there was a brief stint where Chris was part of PBC.
Yeah.
So I know that they wanted that fight, and then the other title is that middleweight. I'm too much of a casual to know who the guys are.
No, you're not wrong. So I was looking through BoxRec yesterday, and I was like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a couple of names, but nobody stands out to you and be like, okay, this guy can match with Chris, and we can have a pay-per-view quality level fight. where you can justify it being on pay-per-view. And unfortunately, even though it'd be a title fight, you can't justify it. The only justification is potentially seeing Chris Eubank Jr. become world champion. So that's why I probably he looks at it and says, even if I fight Triple G, win or lose, I can still potentially get a title fight. But if it was me advising, I'd probably say do the title fight route, and then you have Triple G still there available to you, because now you're winning 2 fights in a row, and that fight becomes a lot more attractive in my eyes. What would you say, you'd go with that route, or
I am searching up, whilst you're saying that, I'm searching up middleweight champions currently, because in my eyes, no one cares about Janabek commercial-wise, let me say. He's even doing a unification fight, Janabek. And for me, Janabek didn't look as promising to, like, the talk that people are doing on Janabek here. When I saw him fight Denzel Bentley, that was even, it reminded me of, what's his name? When Craig Richards faced Bivol, where it's kind of like if Craig Richards stuck it on Bivol a little bit sooner,
it could have been,
yeah, Craig Richards would have had a better chance. And that's what Denzel Bentley reminded me of, where it's just like if he stuck on Janabek, because everyone thought he was the boogeyman, and then then Denzel stuck on him. It's kind of like, yeah, no boogeyman, all this talk he was doing, it's not that tough talk. No one cares. So I think Janabek at WBO. IBF is a guy called Vincenzo Gualtieri. I hope I pronounced the name right. But I think those are facing each other for the unification match. Then it's Erislandy Lara. What a flashback name. I believe he's going to be facing Danny Garcia on the WBC side. And then you have Jamal Charlo, and Carlos Adames is the WBC interim champion. So so the only route I can think of is maybe Chris Eubank that sticks with his money fights and either faces Triple G. But in all honesty, I don't even know if Triple G is really a quote unquote money fight. So
I think it still would be somewhat of a name to get on his record. But I'll say this, for a lot of people who probably overly criticized him in the first fight, he's brought a lot of people back on his side after winning the way he did, because it was, like you said, like a dominant performance. Just quickly on Liam Smith, were you surprised how he fought in this particular fight? Because for me, he came into this fight, looked a lot more relaxed. And yeah, there was pressure on him. But again, I personally felt like all the pressure was on Eubank Jr. And with the way he did the post-fight interview as well, he kind of brushed it off like, he beat me, he was a better man, I'm just going to go back. He's in the twilight of his career, definitely. He's the silver fox right now. Just talk quickly on Liam Smith before we move on to the UFC.
That's all I had in my mind. I just feel like the guy in the twilight of his career, silver fox. I hope that the payday is a good one for him. Shout out to him for getting the first payday, because the first one was pay-per-view, and I think people at first were just like, I'm not paying pay-per-view for that. He gets the knockout, another big payday, and maybe he just sets off into the sun, because in all honesty, funnily enough, I asked in another group chat, like, right, what are the injuries that Liam Smith had coming into this fight? Because it looks like it's affected him.
He's been pushed back the fight a few times because of age.
And then someone just jokingly replied, age. Like, yeah, he's just extensive amateur career, former world champion. You know, he's just at the twilight of his career, and there's nothing bad to say about him. It's just, yeah, father time showed up, and I feel like Liam Smith went out on his shield in an honorable way, and hopefully, if this is in his retirement match, maybe give him 1 or 2 easier fights, maybe in Liverpool on his home ground, just to retire him. But yeah, I think Liam Smith just done what he was supposed to do. He went in there, got his check, and kept it moving, put up an honorable fight. And I feel like this is the type of fight that just let him know, yeah, it's time.
It's time.
That's all I can say on Liam Smith, but shout out to him.
Shout out to him. You know what? Shout out to boxer in general. I think there was a bit of a controversy with Fraser Clark's fight in terms of the way that ended. I do think boxers have a bit of an issue where still for me something's just not hitting. They're core guys. There's something for me just not hitting with them, whereby they bring in other guys that are probably not fought under them continuously, and there is something that's they're obviously trying to make stars, and it'll take a bit of time because these guys can't headline, like you said, the AO Arena and stuff like that. But Ben's doing his bit where he can do. I think Chris Smith is probably their main head guy.
I feel like they are dropping the ball by not
pushing
all in on Chris Smith. I feel like he's, especially after doing a stadium in Bournemouth, I feel like Chris Smith is the one that they should be putting the eggs in the basket in. And then what's worse is the fact that they dropped the ball with Rapport as well. And it's just like, you lot had the chance to make the cruiserweight division great again with all British champions, whether it be a Coley, Billam Smith, or Rapport. And boxer is always one step forward, two steps back. And people don't even realize, like, Chris Eubank Jr. is not with boxer. He's with Wasserman. Wasserman just have a good promotional output where they can go onto different cards. And sorry, I have to give this one as well. Shout out Lyndon Arthur, IBO world champion. Come back, IBO world champion. I had to shout out Lyndon Arthur real quick.
I was going to say, because he was struggling in that fight, and then he came back up and
I was getting upset because if you followed me on this different channels throughout the years, I've always taken a liking to Lyndon Arthur and shouted him out. So I'm happy that he's been able to accomplish that. So hopefully he gets bigger paydays now, whether it's going for the UK guys or you never know. He might just step up to Bivol because everyone wants to be Bivol right now is the boogeyman in that division, and no one really wants to face him. So hey, Lyndon Arthur, maybe that's your chance. Listen, in the words of JR, when Jeff Hardy was climbing that ladder against Undertaker, circa early 2000s, go and make yourself famous, kid. Listen, man, go for it. If no one else wants to fight Bivol, Lyndon Arthur might just have to say, do you know what? F it. Let me go face Bivol. Because at this point, I don't know what's happening with Craig Richards. But what I see first to see is
that's the fight they're pushing, because obviously both guys were out.
They should face Bivol next, but I don't even know what's going to happen. Then Yard is on the rebound from a title fight, so he needs to build himself up again. So yeah, the way I see it, Lyndon Arthur, and then obviously Callum Smith is facing Better Beef. So the way I see it is that, listen, man, Lyndon Arthur, tell Wasserman to the price of the brick gone up and go get that Bivol fight if no one else wants to face Bivol.
I like it. But before we wrap up, we were saying at the start of the show as well, we had a bit of UFC in Paris as well. Ciryl Gane beating Sergei Spivak in the second round. Talking about Ciryl Gane, because he's had some great performances. I think I'd say this about him. When that level went up and Ngannou, John Jones, he's not delivered as much. And then obviously Tom Aspinall in the heavyweight division is there as well. Where's Ciryl Gane right now for you in the heavyweight division?
Let me tell the people that disrespected Gane, and this goes to some of my guys in the group chat that wanted Spivak to win. I told you, and don't ever disrespect Gane like that again. Listen, sometimes ish happens, man. He laid an egg against Jones. Is like, the way people are talking about him against Jones is funny, because I'm like, yeah, he got squashed, fair enough. It's literally the GOAT. It is literally the GOAT that done that to him. People are going on like he went in a title fight against some bum and lost. He's literally, anyone that's not been a champion, he's beating them up. So all the talk. No,
or anyone
not Ngannou was champion as well. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's fine. That's fair. I'll give you that.
Anyone that's not been a champion, he's beating them up. So all this like diminishing talk on Gane was just like, I don't understand. Maybe sometimes people just make it fun to make someone a punching bag for no reason. The same way they gave Aljamain Sterling hate for the most minimal of things. I feel like people tried to do that to Gane, and I was just like, listen, outside of the champions, he is the guy. So all that talking him, I'm so glad he went in there and just reinforced that, yo, cut all that chat. I'm still the guy. And sometimes as well, guess what? You're gonna go to that first, championship fights, first two championship fights, shall I say? Because in all honesty, let's be real, he was rushed into that Jones fight. And I always said it myself. After the Ngannou fight, he should have faced the wrestler just to get him ready for the opportunity. They rushed him in because Ngannou had left and there was no one else. So now he's on a rebuild, and I feel like he's going to face Aspinall next, which would be a great fight to see who's the next contender. Yeah. So the way I see it is Aspinall's next, and then the winner of them two is going to go on to face either Pavlovich, or depending if Jones stays, they're going to face Jones.
I would say this, based off what Jones has been saying himself, I think, when they say that you get out whilst you can do with your faculty, I think Jones is in there. He understands that 295, I get rid of Stipe, I fight Stipe. After that, I'm done, because these new guys I may not be able to keep up with them in that type of way, which is understandable. I think Jones probably calls it a day. But I'd say this, the heavyweight division in the UFC is probably a lot more exciting than it is in boxing, because we're not hung up by everything.
Well, I can't lie though. There's one thing. I honestly, I'm on your side about get out of there whilst you still can. Part of me wants to see Jones versus Pavlovich, just for people to quieten the noise. Just to quiet the noise a bit. Beat Miocic. The Ngannou fight's not going to happen, so let it go. Go face Pavlovich after you beat Miocic, and then call it a career. For me, that'll be the best thing, because then if you face Pavlovich, beat him, then you can say, I beat the current generation, I beat the heavyweight GOAT, UFC heavyweight GOAT in Miocic, and I beat the future generation in Pavlovich and Gane. Call it a career. And then whoever wins out of Gane versus Aspinall, they can go fight for the title against whoever the other heavyweight contenders are. And the way I look at it is that they can either do Gane versus Aspinall in France or Paris again, or
bring it to the UK.
Yeah, or listen, and because I was even someone even said UFC London. I said no, let's do UFC Manchester or UFC Liverpool. If Aspinall's the guy that they're saying he is, then let Aspinall main event in Liverpool against Gane next year, or in either Liverpool or Manny. I think that'll be the best thing.
Yeah, no, I would say Manny. Like,
yeah,
you had Darren Till in Liverpool.
Yeah,
just makes sense to bring Tom Aspinall to Manchester.
Yeah, why not? The only well, this is the way it gets techie. Is either let Aspinall headline that against Gane, or I think Leon Edwards beats Colby anyway, and that's rumored to be for Madison Square Garden card. Or if they give Leon Edwards a big fight in the UK next year, then let Aspinall versus Gane be on the co-main for when Leon Edwards gets his another big homecoming. But hopefully it'll probably be against Bilal. Hopefully, we'll see. You never know how the UFC and Dana work.
UFC has its own politics,
But before we end this, because I digress, shout out Ciryl Gane, because there's a lot of people that are talking smack on his name, and he went out there and showed people outside of the champions, I'm still that guy. And I feel like if we can get to build momentum again, I feel like he can be that guy again. If he can go for Aspinall, then I think it should be Gane versus Pavlovich for the world title. That's how I can see it. But for now, let's not jump the gun. Aspinall versus Gane needs to be next, whether that's in Paris or whether that's in north of England. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, just quickly before we wrap up, in terms of that fight, it can really, for me, it won't have as much of a buzz if it was in the States, as it would in either of them two. You have to make that a domestic fight for either of
Let
the
that
guys. It
be
just works a lot better.
a domestic fight night would make the most sense out of that. A domestic fight night would make the most sense.
For sure. And then you bring on, you know, as Dana loves to, bring on the French fighters, bring on the British fighters, just because why not load the card up?
Yeah, load it, man. And then also we've got Lerone Murphy against Nathaniel Wood potentially. If you know, you know, then we can do that in the UK as well. So let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. But with that, we're going to wrap up today's video. As always, if you enjoy the content, drop a like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Until next time, guys, stay weighed in.